is cheugy?
I don't even care about your opinion. I don't care about what you have to think about anything. We are a part of the fashion development to get where you were today. So shut up about it. I don't even care what you think.
If you've been active on the internet in the past year or so, then odds are you've seen a war of sorts waging between Gen Z and millennials. It started off simply enough with debates about hair parts, then it escalated to arguments over skinny jeans, and eventually spun out of control into silly discourse over what emojis were outdated. I personally think that the entire situation has been blown wildly out of proportion, becoming highly exaggerated by media sites for views, and by white millennial women who've taken it as a personal attack. There are a bunch of videos on YouTube discussing this bizarre situation, so make sure to check those out if you're interested in learning more about the conflict specifically. But today we're going to be looking at one specific development in this quote-unquote war, the word cheugy. Because it's still a relatively new term that isn't common vernacular outside of the internet, many people are understandably confused by it. So in today's video, I'll be attempting to explain the new term as best I can, the drama surrounding it, and why you shouldn't be afraid to embrace the cheug. Generational divides are a tale as old as time, and it seems as though Generation Y and Z were not exempt from it. Generation Y, aka millennials, are typically categorized as people born between 1980 and 1996, while Generation Z, aka Zoomers, are people born between 1997 and 2012. Side note, I personally consider Gen Z as anyone born after the year 2000, but that's just me. According to the official categorization, that makes the oldest millennial 41 and the youngest Zoomer 9, giving them a 32-year age gap. That's a huge difference, and it's no surprise that clashing opinions on everything from food to fashion to music have popped up. When it comes to generational conflict, the younger demographic typically tends to win out in the end, largely due to technological advances and a shift in popular opinions overall. Just look at what happened with the boomers. On one side of things, the younger generation is doing what they've always done and will continue to do, rebelling against adults, the people who've long been at the top who probably need to be knocked down a peg or two. They become the tastemakers, the trendsetters, the innovators. And on the other side of things, the older generation is forced to face the fact that they're no longer young. They're the grown-ups, the parents, the people behind the times and out of touch with what's popular. The uncomfortable truth that they're now considered old has undoubtedly been difficult for some millennials to accept, resulting in quite a lot of hot takes that come off as cringy and sad.
And I'm proud to be a millennial with my sidecar and skinny jeans. And I won't be told what to wear or how to use emojis. Would you kindly shut the fuck up? Ain't nobody asked you for your opinion anyway. Here's a message from millennials to Gen Z. Stay in your motherfucking lane.
Gen Z, you can suck it. Can't tell me what to wear. Cause I've been rocking this side part since you had Kermit on your underwear. So cute. And you can buy these skinny jeans for my cold dead ass, you hear? So Gen Z, you can suck it. You can't tell me what to wear. Oh, you guys look grumpy. You should take a nap.
Why people feel the need to write entire songs about the opinions of people a decade younger than them who have absolutely no impact on their actual lives is beyond me. Fashion has always been influenced by youth culture, with their expression of identity and unique point of view inviting change and spawning new style trends. Their ideas are inherently in stark contrast to the generation before them. Just look at how the toned-down nature of 90s grunge juxtaposed 80s excess. So in today's age, it's inevitable that items of clothing that are heavily associated with millennials would be the opposite of what Zoomers find fashionable, and they even made up a word for it.
Okay, TikTok, I have a new word for you that my friends and I use that you clearly are all in need of. So I keep seeing videos like this on my For You page. Or people will say things like, this is millennial, or girl boss energy. All of these terms are pointing to the same thing. The word, my friends, is cheugy, okay? It's the opposite of trendy, stylish in middle school and high school, maybe not, timelines don't really matter, but it's no longer in style. It's used when someone follows these out-of-date trends or something falls into that category. Some examples. First of all, graphic tees and hats, phrases on clothing, cheugy. Herbal Essence shampoo, cheugy. Instagram captions like these, cheugy, the word you never knew you needed.
While cheugy can be traced back to 2013, it saw its true rise to prominence on TikTok in April 2021 after a video explaining the term gained traction on the platform. In the months that followed, over 150 million videos were posted on TikTok that used the hashtag. And in the wake of its popularity, an assortment of publications such as the New York Times, Vice, Rolling Stone, and Refinery 29 covered cheugy. According to the Instagram account @cheuglife, They define it as, quote, a person who currently follows out-of-date trends, usually stemming from things that were popular in middle school and high school. Considering many of the items that are commonly called cheugy were popular in the early to mid-2010s, millennials have found themselves the primary target of the word, hence the generational drama. Since its inception, I've seen cheugy defined in an assortment of different ways. But the way I choose to think about it is an outdated trend. Something that was once considered popular to the point it was oversaturated and everywhere, and has since fallen out of favor. What cheugy is up to personal opinion. It can differ depending on where you live, how old you are, and who's in your social circle, which is a large reason as to why I think millennials have taken offense to the word. Because to them, these items aren't cheugy, it's something that they're attached to and actually like. If you watched my video about Tumblr aesthetics, you might recall that I mentioned the basic bitch, a sexist term that rose in popularity online in the early 2010s as a way of belittling women who enjoyed things that were mainstream, whether that was music or fashion or anything in between. At a first glance, cheugy seems to touch on similar ideas, but is a little less obvious in its misogyny, and overall a touch less negative, at least in my opinion. Unlike the term basic bitch, which didn't necessarily refer to women who were unstylish, but instead chose to participate in things that were mainstream and therefore had to be lacking in their own personalities, items that are considered cheugy are recognizable but no longer popular, and you can even be cheugy purposely and with irony. After digging around on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, there were a wide range of items that are often called cheugy, and I'll share the most common ones with you now. Chevron print. Chevron had a moment in the 60s and 70s before being left by the wayside for several decades. In the early 2010s, it made a comeback in the home decor space before eventually making its way back into fashion, with many attributing its return to a collaboration between Missoni and Target in 2011. In the early half of the decade, you could spot Chevron on everything from pillows to coats to bodycon dresses before it eventually died out as a result of minimalism. While the large clunky zigzag that dominated the 2010s is now considered cheugy, with the return of 60s and 70s fashion trends, we're starting to see more subdued chevron come back onto the scene. These colors. Mint, coral, and maroon often come up in the cheugy conversation, and overall it's sort of odd to think of an entire color as being outdated. Maroon was a mainstay of early to mid-2010s fashion, often appearing on skater skirts, thigh highs, and infinity scarves. Mint and coral were difficult colors to wear to begin with, so the fact that they were regularly paired together was truly bizarre and an understandable critique of the era. Rose gold. Super popular in the mid-2010s, rose gold was everywhere, including on iPhones. Compared to silver or gold, it isn't as timeless, which is why it's now considered outdated and therefore cheugy. The Gucci belt. In 2017, the gold double G belt was widely considered one of fashion's most coveted items and a cult favorite, but now it's cheugy. The Gucci belt was one of many high-end logo-prominent items that had marketed themselves as a minimalistic must-have in a similar vein as the Celine graphic tee or the Balenciaga triple S's. Nearing the end of the 2000s, we saw a dip in the economy due to the recession, and as a result, a distaste for logomania. We're seeing something similar due to the pandemic, with many becoming fed up with obvious excess. It's less about the belt being ugly and more about the fact that it's flaunting wealth. Adidas Superstars. I owned a pair myself and wore them to death, so trust me when I say that it pains me to hear that they're now cheugy. The simplistic style was first introduced in the 1970s, but were pushed out in favor of more flamboyant and colorful high tops in the 1980s, before eventually making a comeback in the 90s. The minimalist sneaker rose to prominence once again in the mid-2010s, largely due to the plainness of 2010s fashion as a whole. They could be dressed up or down, and by the end of the decade could be found in an assortment of colors. I still don't think they're ugly or a bad shoe, but there have always been trends when it comes to basic sneakers, and right now Air Force Ones and Converse All-Stars seem to be what's in. Tight thigh-high boots. When I see these, I just think about Ariana Grande circa 2018. With uber-tight dresses and skinny jeans becoming less popular in the 2020s, the thigh-high boot has been replaced with blockier shoes that complement the silhouettes that are currently considered to be in style. Bamboo bags. These bags started off as a cute summer trend, but have since fallen victim to the fast fashion model, leaving the majority looking like a kid's popsicle stick project. Cold shoulder tops. Reigning over the 2010s, cold shoulder tops were admittedly not my favorite trend, as I felt it cheapened an outfit and made little sense functionally. Cutouts of other varieties have been on the up and up, but having lived through their popularization in the 2010s during the very dark time when every skater dress had holes on the side, it'll probably be considered cheugy soon enough. Peplum. Early 2010s fashion as a whole was heavily influenced by 1950s and 1980s fashion, so considering we're currently seeing a revival of 60s, 70s, and 2000s trends, the peplum is understandably out of style. If you're still wearing peplum at this point, it's definitely a choice because they're not that easy to come across anymore. Skinny jeans. I mean, I've talked about this so many times at this point, but yes, skinny jeans are currently out, largely due to the influence of 60s and 70s fashion, which highlighted more straight leg or flared styles. But they'll come back into style in a few years regardless, so wear them if you want to, which is something I would say about all of these things. As someone who has participated in and is still participating in some of the things that are considered cheugy, my biggest piece of advice is to just focus on yourself. Not only is it inevitable that people will have different opinions about clothing, but fashion and style at their core are forms of self-expression that can differ depending on the person. Considering many of the items that are now called cheugy were once popular, you can presume that items that are currently trending now will one day be talked about in the same manner. In fact, I've already seen people call the strawberry dress, Telfar bags, and Hockney dresses cheugy, which is absolutely ridiculous because they only just became popular in the first place. If you learn to develop your own style philosophy that isn't dictated by what other people say is trending, not only will you find yourself happier in the long run, but you'll also be less likely to fall victim to a vicious cycle that promotes overconsumption. If you like it, you like it. Don't let someone else tell you you shouldn't. No matter what your age or what generation you're a part of, everyone is going to have different opinions on what is or isn't fashionable. So just say screw it and live your cheugiest life. What are your thoughts on cheugy? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!